What's up, Fight fans? Brett Okamoto here from the 5 Rounds podcast. On this week's episode, myself and Brian Campbell got into all of the drama between Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. Is this fight happening? We also talked to TJ Dillashaw and Dwayne Ludwig. Tune in.
All the dogs are counting down, about to put the anchor down. Hotty toddy, who's it gonna be? Cowbells and swamp, the Aggies wrong. There's nothing like the SEC. The weekend's full of surprise.
Get him with the flex.
From Williams Bryce to Death Valley. On the Finebaum show, Paul's on the roll. If he don't get the best of me, call Paul.
Alabama.
It's your show. Go ahead.
They'll make sense of it all.
You got a damn burn crappy attitude.
Needles up on Rocky Top. The Razorbacks are hard to stop. War Eagles soaring in the wind.
Let me talk, Danny.
Okay, go.
Tigers rocking in the zoo. Wildcats are grinning too. Talk about the Tigers rolling in. The weekend's full of surprises. From big upsets to rivalries. On the Finebaum show, heads are gonna roll. If they don't get the best of me, we'll call Paul. He'll make sense of it all.
I really don't know where to go after that.
Don't take those calls.
I could give you my address and phone number if you're ever in this neck of the woods.
In my life, I've never had a phone call like that. We welcome you back to the second hour of our program. We are so glad you're with us. It's been a busy show, and Michigan football always seems to come up in the Harbaugh era. And I will say that I was about as intrigued as anyone when Jim got the job up there. We talked to John Bacon right off the chute. I think I said this on ESPN. I thought it was the most significant hire of any school since Urban Meyer at Ohio State, and he has certainly lived up to the billing in terms of oxygen and hype. But lately, he has come under some criticism. I was on Outside the Lines yesterday with my good friend John Bacon, the New York Times best-selling author. We didn't get a chance to really complete much of the conversation because of time limitations, so we are delighted that John, probably against the better wishes of the Michigan fan base, has decided to join us. John, thank you, as always, for being here. You're more than gracious in spite of, I'm sure, mean tweets to your account today.
Hi, Paul. It's a big boy business, man. Put on a big boy underpants and keep moving. So it's all good. Looking forward to it.
Help us understand, because this is you're an educator as well, and I want to go on an educational mission today to try to better understand the Michigan fan base, particularly in the age of Jim Harbaugh. Can you enlighten us?
Sure. One of my lines, of course, about the Michigan fan base is some of them are not happy unless they're not happy. In other words, when you go 10-3 2 years in a row, all of a sudden they're complaining about the bowl game. It's like, look, man, 2 years ago they were 5-7. I was at the Maryland game, 60,000 fans, maybe, and it looked like the apocalypse basically had hit Michigan Stadium. So that one you got to watch out for. Certainly, it's part of the fight song, of course. It's the only fight song I know, Paul, that the victors. Most of the fight songs, the Men of the Scarlet and Gray. You have to win this game today. On Wisconsin. You have to win this game. Fight on for her fame, etc. The Michigan fight song says, "Hail to the victors valiant, hail to the conquering heroes, the leaders and the best, the champions of the West." It's the only fight song I know, Paul, that takes place after the game, the league, and the world have already been conquered. So if you want to call it arrogance, that's fair game, perhaps. Michigan fans call it confidence, but it's part of the DNA, I believe, of the Michigan fan base. So whenever they're slighted or perceived as slighted, you're probably going to hear about it. Also, I think they're very protective of Jim Harbaugh, undeniably. And I do think in this case, you and I disagree on this one, I believe. But I do think in this case, I can see where the eyebrows get raised when he's hired a handful of employees who had ties to high school players. But I've checked out all the situations, Paul, and I do think it checks out. So we can talk about that if you like. But I think in this case, he's clear. I can understand your feelings on it. But when you hire a guy from the NFL who's put 10 years in, I think that that's a pretty good hire, no matter who his son is.
It does check out, John, but would it be better off if Jim Harbaugh just said, listen, we like this guy a lot, we also like his son?
I suppose, yeah, transparency there probably goes a long way. And like a son, even though it's not an NCAA violation, because these days, who knows, you got a stack of books and everything. The kid is so far committed to Oregon that, of course, could change. But I'm very confident that if Jim put all his eggs in his basket to hire his dad, Michael Johnson Sr., for 2.5 years before his son could even take a snap, Jim would not only be unethical, he'd be pretty stupid. And Jim is usually allocating his resources better than that. So I think you're right that at times being more forthright can help. In the Swenson case, Eric Swenson from Illinois, they couldn't speak a year and a half ago because, of course, he was a recruit at the time. So once in a while you're handcuffed by that. But I think one thing for sure, Jim does love stirring the pot, and if it does get some attention, he has no problem with it. I think in that sense, he has done probably the best job of any coach I've seen in the last decade of getting in the NCAA's head and basically living rent-free.
And, listen, you know it because it was over a year ago that I think it was an interview in the Detroit Free Press. I described him, Jim Harbaugh, as the Donald Trump of college football. And I didn't mean it in a negative way. I meant it in a positive way, that he does control the media, much like Trump at the time was controlling the oxygen of the political coverage while he was trying to get the Republican nomination. Is that why he does certain things? And by the way, I have no problem with him going to Rome. I actually think it's a good idea. But it came out the other day speaking in Alabama. Is that just to tweak people?
My guess is yes. Certainly on the face of it, you can say that he's there to get the Michigan brand out there in the heart of the talent. And no matter what Michigan or Ohio State does these days, the talent is still in the South. You can no longer, I don't think, build a national championship caliber football team with Midwestern talent alone these days. So take it as a compliment that the population, the economy, the talent have all gone down south. In the North, if you're a great athlete, you could be playing football, basketball, even ice hockey, my old sport, even occasionally baseball. In the South, if you're a serious athlete, you are almost certainly playing football and probably playing 7-on-7 in the spring. So Jim is not dumb. What was the old bank line? Why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Well, why do you recruit in Alabama? Because that's where the talent is. And I'm sure that drives Saban nuts, and I'm sure that speech will as well. He will never get more, I don't think, than one or two players out of Alabama, maybe. But it does tend to tweak the noses of the folks down there.
John, you know Jim Harbaugh. You told us once about conversations before he took this job, and it's easy for me to sit here. I've met him. I've interviewed him some time ago. I don't know him now very well. Doubt I ever will. But what's he like? What's he all about?
Well, I can tell you this, and we're not best buddies, and we're not drinking buddies, although I'm drinking buddies with his drinking buddies, so I guess we're one drinking buddy removed, if that counts.
I like that.
There you go. I'll steal that one, Paul. It's fair. But going back to grade school, junior high school, I played baseball against him, hockey with him, and one of us, Paul, was a great athlete, so do the math on that. He was almost the same then as he is now, which is hard to believe, but over-the-top enthusiasm, a rah-rah guy, a cheerleader from the start. We're playing hockey at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning, which is not an ideal time to play, and he was so revved up on the bench, my line mate, Scott Bogard, still a good friend of mine, actually asked Jim to pipe down. So the energy has been there throughout. So whatever you're seeing, it is authentic. It's not just for effect, and I think that is ultimately the saving grace, that it's not phony, it's not just calculated. He is a calculating guy. And I think, I don't know anybody who's basically shaken the model more than he has in the last year or two in terms of going to Rome, as you say, the satellite camps, of course, sleepovers, climbing trees, driving go-karts, whatever it is. Jim has been out there and getting a lot of attention for it. So if Michigan is going to compete against the Alabamas and the Floridas with all the natural advantages they have, plus great coaching staffs and programs, he has to really get outside the box, and I think he's doing that.
Certainly, Michigan was a major contender this year for the playoff until the final few weeks of the season. It's easy to predict one way or the other, but it still seems from a distance that Ohio State may be a hair ahead. Penn State is coming on very strongly. Wisconsin. I mean, a lot of programs have certainly made a dent since he's been at Michigan. The cross-state rival Michigan State has been to the playoffs. So, John, you know the football program there. Where are they, and what is it going to take for Michigan to beat Ohio State, to win the Big Ten, and to get to the college football playoff?
Well, back to the Michigan fan base. Last year the team was 10-3. This year the team was 10-3, and the average Michigan fan will say, "Oh, we're not getting any better." Well, in 2015, they had to pull out rabbits out of hats to beat Minnesota and Indiana, which are hardly the class of the Big Ten. This last year, they basically lost 3 games based on 3 plays. So that's how close they were this year to doing some real damage, and yet they were not, I don't think, at the caliber of a Final Four team. I thought they're going to be 11-2, and they were 10-3, and the reason is the offensive line is just, it went from being abysmal 2 years ago under Brady Hoke, when Michigan was minus 48 yards rushing versus Michigan State. You're better off taking a knee than running the ball. If there's one thing I'm glad Bo Schembechler never had to witness, that was it, because it would have broken his heart. And now the offensive line is average, but Harbaugh just brought in Greg Fry from Indiana. And Indiana's got its strengths and weaknesses, but the offensive line was a great strength under Fry. And it was when he's at Michigan previously under Rich Rodriguez. They put 4 guys in the NFL out of the 5, including a 2-star named Patrick Omame. So that's coaching right there. So that should be improved, I think, with a better offensive line, that within the next probably 2 or 3 years they should be competing for the Final Four. I don't know if it's going to be this coming year. They still have some questions to answer. And look, that bar is high, and Ohio State proved it. We thought Ohio State I thought they were going to be better than Clemson and not as good as Alabama. And, of course, Clemson whitewashed them. So if that's the measure, then right now the Big Ten has got a few more steps to go.
2 years from now, if Harbaugh has not beaten Meyer, has not won the Big Ten, do you think he'll still be there? Can he handle this, not winning?
He is not good at handling not winning. I'll say that. When I was talking to the U of M president about this a couple years ago when Jim was hired, he said, "Well, what can I expect?" I said, "No, based on my knowledge of Jim, I would say he's going to win, he's not going to cheat, and he's going to say or do something that probably gets some attention that ends up in your desk every month or two. And if you can handle 1 and 2, you can handle 3." And that's probably the case. He is pretty resilient, though, and my sense is we're just guessing about Jim's future. Never say never. Who knows about the NFL? But again, with his parents moving in next door and his kids going to Jim's old school, living on Bo's old street, it does seem like he's hunkered down for the long haul. I cannot imagine him leaving without beating Ohio State, at least once and probably more than that. So I would say if he's 0-4 against Ohio State after year 4, he's probably more likely to stay than go, is my guess, just based on his competitive nature. So that would not, I don't think, scare him off. It will tick him off, and I would avoid Schembechler Hall that Monday.
Yeah, no, I tried to at all. But by the way, we were joking today. You think you hear about us all the time from Michigan fans. You think we could maybe put a show together up in Ann Arbor and have you as our host? You think we would be safe, welcome?
I like that, Paul. The question is not would we be popular, would we draw a crowd, would we be safe? I'm very confident we'd be safe. I'm more confident we could fill Rackham Hall in 1,000 seats, no problem. So just say when, and I'd be happy to arrange that.
And by the way, we're doing it we're not doing it for any other reason. This is not a money-making venture. It's an adventure. Period. Not Lewis and Clark, not Columbus, but I think it would be one of the more interesting moments of our existence here. So we'll go to work on that. We'll see if anybody in Ann Arbor wants to step up and help facilitate.
I'd be happy to come down south anytime. Chick-fil-A will always bring me down. Love that place.
There's one around the corner. John, thank you as always.
Paul, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Great friend. John Bacon, best-selling author, Michigan man, close to that program, connected, was consulted before Harbaugh was hired. Harbaugh spoke to him, and we always enjoy visiting. How about this show? Live in Ann Arbor. Call security. I'll be right back. Glad you're back with us. Good to have everyone here on board. Let's continue Elliot in South Carolina is up next. Hello, Elliot.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Very well.
I'm actually a South Carolina fan, but I just watched y'all talk about Michigan and all their fans and everything. I actually have a connection to Michigan. One of my good buddies, he has his older brother's an impact player on their team, and I went up there for a game last fall against Penn State to the Big House, and just like what y'all were talking about earlier, all the fans, you know, it's a lot different than the SEC fans, and you could definitely tell how they thought last year was their year and stuff. But
it was their year, and that's why they're so bitter right now and so jealous of the Alabamas and Ohio States of the world.
Well, yeah, speaking of that, is everyone forgetting how close they were to beating Ohio State in that game?
No, I mean, that was a double overtime game.
They pretty much won, but the refs got that call wrong. You know,
that's kind of the story of Michigan's life, though, isn't it? They always seem, you know, they would have beaten Florida State if it hadn't been for Peppers, or they would have.
If you didn't get hurt.
I mean, it's always something. You know, they would have beaten Iowa if Iowa hadn't hit the last-second field goal. I mean, it's always something with these people.
I know, and I mean that's not what I was going to talk about there, but I will say the Big House you were talking about. You've never been there or anything. It was honestly one of the coolest places I've ever been. I've been all around the SEC, some of the SEC places.
What game did you go to?
The Penn State game last year.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Michigan waxed them, and it was before Penn State.
Listen, I'll get there. We're pretty serious. We would like to go up there. It doesn't have to be a live show. We can just do an evening with John. I would like to I would like to look into the eyes of some of these Michigan students and fans that we hear from every day. Maybe it would help me better understand. I mean, I've never been to outer space, but it would be probably as close as I've ever gotten to trying to understand an extraterrestrial person or being. Alex is up next in Orlando.
Yeah, Paul, I don't think that's a good idea, you going up there. You don't want to do that. Some people don't like you, Paul, so don't even waste your time.
Okay.
I was listening to the conversation about you guys talking about the most exciting players in college football history, and it kind of got me thinking, and I kind of got a little list here. Maybe Mark and John can help me out with this one. Just kind of give you a couple names and see what you think, okay?
Got it.
So I got Maurice Clarett, from running back from Ohio State. Of course, Vince Young, Sammy Watkins from Clemson. You got Denard Robinson from Michigan when he used to play with a quarterback. He was totally exciting. Sue from Nebraska, the lineman.
Oh, yeah.
You got Reggie Bush, running back, of course. Thinking of wide receivers here, you got Percy Harvin from Florida.
He was amazing.
Exciting player. And just to bring it to linemen, I have to say the Pouncey twins. When they played at Florida together, they were exciting to watch. Safety, you got Taylor Mays from USC back in the day. He was very exciting to watch. And I'll have to agree, I believe Mark or John said it, Todd Gurley, when he was at Georgia, unbelievable. And that's coming from a Florida fan. Unbelievable. And then my last guy I got here is Christian McCaffrey. He was very, very exciting to watch a year ago. So what you guys think about that list?
That's a really good list, Alex. Always enjoy the conversation. Thank you very much. Millie is up next.
Well, hi there.
Hi there, Millie.
How are you doing today?
Oh, excellent. Thank you for asking.
The thing of it is, the reason why I called today is that I wanted to talk to Laura yesterday, and I didn't get a chance to. You know, because I was on first, so to speak.
What would you like to ask Laura?
Well, the thing of it is, I just wanted to find out how she got so talented and so beautiful. She is out of this world, number one. Mm-hmm. And number two, I wanted to thank her for saying that I looked beautiful in that photo. I mean, that really made me happy, too.
I will talk to Laura and pass that along.
Anyway, the thing of it is that you were talking about the brackets that they're going to be doing, you know, for basketball.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, do you do one?
Sometimes. I don't always. I'm not a crazed bracketologist, but I'll fill one out with my wife just for fun.
Okay, because whatever you say is going to win, then I will believe you wholeheartedly. Anyway, the thing of it is, too, did you see the Mike and Mike show yesterday?
I saw a few minutes of it.
Well, did you see the pies that Mike...
No, I heard about it, but I did not see that, no.
I was so scared when I heard that they were going to do that on the show. I was so scared that you might be on there that day,
No, I'm not taking too many pies to my face. I'm
well,
over
and I was
that.
afraid that would happen.
No,
and I did want to see that.
I try to avoid that at all costs.
And another thing, I was just over, and we had our monthly buffet that we have at the community building where I live. And I've been talking about your show like crazy, and guess what? They've started watching, and they think you're a cute little young man. And they
oh, my
think
goodness, how nice.
And also, they asked me, they said, and I told them, I said that you were up there a little bit in years, and all sorts of things. They think that you're 45 years old.
Well, I am. I haven't celebrated a birthday since 45.
Okay, will do. Anyway, I just wanted to thank you for everything yesterday. That was beautiful, and I'm writing a letter. It'll probably go out tomorrow.
Thank you, Millie. I appreciate it very, very much. Let's go to Chicago, and Jimmy is up next.
Hey, Paul.
Hi there.
Every time John Bacon's on, I mean, he's just really good.
He is great.
He's got that unique perspective of being able to really accurately describe the Michigan fan base and just what's going on with Harbaugh, how he's thinking at the time and all that. But actually, that first year Brady Hoke was there, it looked like Michigan might be on the way back because they went 11-2, won the Sugar Bowl, and beat Michigan. And then they thought long and hard about it, and they had made the decision, I think, in the previous off season before Brady's first year to schedule the Cowboy Classic against Bama at Jerry World.
Oh yeah,
and
that was a bad night.
After going 11-2 and winning the Sugar Bowl, they felt they had a chance to at least be competitive, and I think have get some exposure. And I was at that game, and of course Bama just ran them out of the stadium, and I think that was really kind of the beginning of the end of the Brady Hoke era. I mean, they just never really recovered from that, but. I will say, just last year, though, that beat down of Penn State, and the fact that it was 49-10, I think that was the big factor that really kept Penn State out of the playoffs. Obviously beating Ohio State and winning the Big Ten championship, but, boy, you lose a game 49-10, and you're fighting 3 or 4 other teams for that 4th spot. I think that kind of put...
No, I agree with you. That was always something that I couldn't quite wrap my arms around in the conversation about Penn State. It in many ways canceled out the win over Ohio State.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And well, I'll tell you what. I mean, and also John talked about this could be definitely a rebuilding year for Michigan because they're losing all 11 of their defensive starters. So that's never easy to do under any circumstances, although, Greg Brown's done a great job as the defensive coordinator there. But as to not beating Ohio State, though, I will say, and I was watching the game just taking it in, but I will say, though, that I think you can argue, really, that Michigan did win that game. Ohio State didn't make that 4th down play in the second overtime, but even Ohio State fans, they gleefully refer to that play and always will as, quote, the spot.
You got it. Hey, thanks, Jimmy. Appreciate the call from Chicago. We are working our way through this Thursday afternoon, 90 minutes in. We'll talk a little basketball next hour with Jerry Palm. More of your phone calls at 855-242-7285. We welcome you back. Glad you are with us here on this Thursday afternoon. We'll talk a little hoops coming up about what did the Arkansas upset over South Carolina do for the Razorbacks' NCAA hopes. If you take it helped them in the office pool, you are probably correct. Jeff is up next in Chicago. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, hello. Man, what was with that caller from Memphis in the first segment? What was it? What was that guy's name?
It's called too much alcohol. It's called too much alcohol.
I thought he was going to start to say, Paul, there's jokers, there's smokers, there's midnight tokers, there's winners, there's losers, but that ain't no big deal. I mean, where was he going? And I mean, I guess big ups to you for staying with him for so long. Hey, if you are going to go to Ann Arbor this year, you may want to warn Michigan fans because I think it took Northwestern football like a full calendar year to recover from your last trip up there.
Yeah, no, I went to Northwestern 3 years ago with Game Day. They were undefeated, ranked in the country, and I think they won one more game that year. They just lost out.
Then they had the debacle with trying to create the union. I mean, yeah. It was one thing after another before they could finally recover. But they hey, look, they eventually managed to. But and look, before I make this counterpoint, I'm sort of with you. I mean, this is one of the funniest things going in sports right now. You have a coach who loves the spotlight, loves the attention, at a premier national program who has back-to-back third-place championships in his own division so far. And, I mean, it doesn't – in Penn State's getting better. I mean, they beat Penn State really good this year. But let's face it, they also had what were their first 6 games were at home. I mean, there's nothing that's not funny about this until he – wins the Big Ten
one thing I will say,
or goes to the Final Four.
I think you can imagine how big that Michigan-Florida game is going to be.
Oh, that is going to be a big game. And look, I think Florida's got a great chance to win that game. But I guess you're sort of, hiring a recruit's dad, I'm not saying you fully crossed over on Jim Harbaugh into Charles Barkley on LeBron James territory, but there's sort of, you might want to reel it in a little bit in the sense that this hiring a recruit's dad, of course, the most famous one I can remember is in basketball with Larry Brown hiring Danny Manning's dad.
Ed Manning, who was driving, he was a long haul truck driver at the time.
Yes.
Not that there's anything wrong with being a long haul truck driver, but usually you don't get hired to be on the Kansas basketball staff while you're crossing through Kentucky, hauling Dunkin' Donuts.
Yes, no, not typically, of course not. And I guess I'm just saying, I want this to continue to be funny, and the more they lose, the funnier this is for me, and the funnier it is listening to you. But I guess I'm just trying to say, with regards to this issue, I don't know. Who cares?
Jeff, I can tell you that I really don't go out of my way looking to talk about Harbaugh. Yesterday I was asked by Outside the Lines. It's usually not my doing. I don't just tweet at 3 a.m. in the morning about things that Jim Harbaugh does. In fact, I really did. No one ever gave me credit for this, but I thought it was a great idea to go to Rome. But I'm not quoted on the positive things I say about Harbaugh. It's only when I call him out for doing something unethical, which he's done in this coach. And John Bacon, to say this guy has a great reputation as a coach, he may be overqualified. Well, why did it take him until now to be hired by Harbaugh? Harbaugh's had 3 years of opportunities to hire coaches up there.
Yeah, no, look, I hear you. You're absolutely right. And again, I'm with you. I hope they finish in third place again so that we can see more of the phony T-shirts of back-to-back-to-back third-place championships.
No, they are going to lose at Penn State this year. You can tell. That's one of the all-time revenge games.
Yes, they are going to lose at Penn State. They may or may not lose to Ohio State at home, but they are not going to the college football playoff this year. They may not be going the year after that. Who knows? And that's why this thing's awesome. I guess I'm just saying, with like this particular coach, to me, with this particular action, look, man, I love you. I'm just, and I know you don't need it.
Listen, I know what you're saying, and I will try to wean myself off the Jim Harbaugh drug.
Look, I'll try too. It's hard. It's as long as they keep finishing in third.
Here's the deal, Jeff, and I'll close. As long as you have insecure, paranoid, delusional fans like Harbaugh does with most Michigan fans, then you are going to have conversations like this one. Jim is in Grand Rapids, Michigan. How are you, Jim? Jim, are you there? Not all at once, Jim. Michigan Nation speaking there. Sorry, Jim, we couldn't get you on. Let's continue with more calls. How about Lua in Gainesville?
Paul, what's up, man?
How are you?
Pretty good. Love the show. I'm calling to talk about Texas A&M.
Okay.
And Kevin Sumlin's position as our head coach. The last 3 years, he's went 8-5. This season, I think he went 6-0. High expectations. I think they were number 4 in the college football playoff.
I believe they got that high. I think they were in the first college football playoff poll this year.
Yeah, the first polls they were ranked 4 after that loss to Alabama.
Yeah.
So I mean, and you know what? I got a couple buddies out in Texas A&M, and they have they're an SEC school. They got a long history, and everyone's big on the Aggies and whatnot. And I don't know, they were very happy, and their season just tanked after losing, getting blown out by the Mississippis. So, I mean, I got to ask you, what do you think about Kevin Sumlin's job this year? What does he have to achieve, basically, to not get fired?
Yeah, I mean, I think he has to have a significant season to quiet everyone down. That's coming from people with whom I talk to on a regular basis that follow that program. Is there a number? It's hard to say. Sometimes it's a matter of how you look and what happens, but you can't keep throwing up 8-5 records and expect to remain in your position.
For sure. I mean, here's what I think. I think that he's got to beat the West. You know what I mean? He's got to beat Alabama. He's got to do it all over again. From that first year with Johnny Manziel. But I don't know, man.
Well, he does. He does have Alabama in Kyle Field. That's always a good place to play Alabama.
For sure.
But that first game with UCLA is so critical. It sets a tone. Last year they beat UCLA in overtime, and they were able to then knock off Arkansas. It's always the same schedule. They got a big game at front, and they deal with Arkansas pretty quickly. And Arkansas hasn't beaten them under Bielema, so that's another triple revenge game. Hey, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. We are up against a break here. More of your phone calls, more guests. We'll talk a little basketball in the next hour. A lot of Harbaugh talk here on a Thursday afternoon. We are coming right back. Glad you're back with us. We'll continue with more phone calls. I think we have Michigan fans are a little slow to the draw. We think we have Jim back now from Grand Rapids. Go right ahead, Jim.
Hi, Paul. How you doing?
We are well. Thank you.
Good. Hey, I hope you do come to Ann Arbor, because I think you're going to find out there are a lot of Michigan fans that are in the same category as John Bacon as far as being a little bit objectivity, and we totally understand. I mean, they're fanatic fans at every fan base. I mean,
no,
I
listen. I know
show.
that I really want to do this, and by the way, we don't have to do a live show. We can just have like an afternoon or an evening. I'd like to get to know Michigan. I don't know where to go. Maybe somebody up there can come up with the idea. My biggest concern will be a private security force. But other than that, maybe we could wait till springtime or the summertime, maybe right before the season. But I'm all in. You guys figure it out, and we'll be there.
Okay, because I listened to your.
Yeah, I did an event a year ago in Columbus, Ohio, so I don't need to go back there.
Okay, but I just, I listened to your show. I coached football for 30 years, and I listened to the Alabama fan, the Auburn fans, and a lot of them sound a lot like the Michigan fans that you're describing too. And I think all fan bases have that particular set of fans that are just out there a little bit. And they ruin it for other people.
Yeah,
I mean,
they obviously do and must, and it seems like the preponderance of these Michigan fans have access to Twitter. Hey, listen, thank you very much, Jim. We appreciate that. Rick in Southern California is up next. Hey, Rick.
Jim was right on. I mean, every fan base has got their knuckleheads. He's right on with that. But 3 years ago, when Harbaugh was hired, I talked to you and I said I thought within 3 to 5 years that the wheels were going to come off the rail there, and I got a feeling that this is going to be the year, because this is going to be a rough year for them with all the losses. Like you said, I agree 100%. I think they're going to just get boat raced at Happy Valley, and I don't see them beating Ohio State either. So I think this is going to be one of those years where the fan base starts uttering, the words, and he's going to be I think he's just going to lose his mind.
Well, listen, no great coach, and I think he would qualify, handles losing. But I think Jim Harbaugh, even though he's in his 50s, has a lack of maturity, and I think his inability to deal with his own emotions, he becomes unhinged at times.
Yes.
That will make it more difficult for him to deal with constantly being owned by Urban Meyer.
Well, I think you'll see him attack his fan base, media up there. I think
he will.
He
will turn on the same people that right now look to him as some sort of cult figure from yesteryear, serving Kool-Aid to his masses.
He has the Michigan history. Real quick, Kevin Sumlin, if his job hinges on beating UCLA and Alabama, you might as well give him his walking papers.
I don't think it does, but I think if he loses those two games, he has very little margin for error.
And one last thing, because I agree with that. And one last thing, I've been kind of out of touch last week. I haven't heard your thoughts yet on Alabama's possible choice of offensive coordinator. Can you update on that, Paul? I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, DeBall has been the guy from Brian DeBall from New England has been reportedly the leading candidate. There have been several reports out there that he is number one. I fully expect something by tomorrow, perhaps. Certainly this weekend. So we'll keep our eye on that. Right now, I don't know what to make out of it. It's a confusing story. How about Matt in San Antonio? Matt, thank you. Good afternoon.
You're welcome, Paul. How are you guys doing today, Paul?
Excellent.
I want to talk about Texas A&M football.
Yeah.
I kind of agree with some of your callers about Kevin Sumlin. If he doesn't beat UCLA or Alabama, I think he might get fired this year. But I think he's going to have a bounce-back year, Paul, because he did hire a pretty good DB coach. He does have the defensive depth to actually turn the season around. I was wrong about last year. I can admit that.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, Matt. I asked you this last year, and you were optimistic, which is good. What about this year? You know the schedule. UCLA, you got Alabama at home.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously have the Arkansas game in Dallas. The usual suspects you have to deal with, including a trip to Baton Rouge, trip to Tennessee. Is it Tennessee? Who's the out of division game this year?
The out of division game would probably be Ole Miss.
Okay. No. I mean from the east of it, the eastern side of the ledger.
The eastern side of the ledger. That would probably be
South Carolina. South Carolina is the game. Who are the South Carolina and who else is my question? Florida. Florida's the game I'm trying to think of.
Florida. That one I would say is also one. If he loses that one,
At Florida. No, it's not a great schedule. I mean, the Aggies could be really good and still lose to Alabama, LSU, Florida, and UCLA. And would that be enough? Thanks, Matt. More to come. 2 hours to go.
I'm Eric Carabell. On the latest fantasy-focused baseball podcast, the awesome Tristan Cockroft and I discuss Kyle Schwarber catching, Jose Peraza playing, Alex Reyes relieving, not really, plus closer carousel and the Hash Browns.
What's up, Fight fans? Brett Okamoto here from the 5 Rounds podcast. On this week's episode, myself and Brian Campbell got into all of the drama between Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. Is this fight happening? We also talked to TJ Dillashaw and Dwayne Ludwig. Tune in.
The NBA All-Star Game this Sunday.
Here's Curry behind the back, half-court heave on its way, and he hits it!
Coverage begins Sunday at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.